Hi there, and welcome to the Surviving and Thriving in Residency podcast. I'm Charley Lowry, your host and director of GME Relations at PracticeLink. This show is all about exploring the world of graduate and undergraduate medical education. We'll dive into the real-life experiences, successes, and challenges faced by medical students, residents, and fellows, while also highlighting valuable tools to support you, whether that's financial planning, student aid, or the many free resources provided by PracticeLink. If you're thinking about med school, currently studying, or deep into residency or fellowship, this podcast is here to offer insights and support to make your journey a bit easier than those before you. Welcome to today's episode of Surviving and Thriving in Residency. Today, I'm happy to have with us Donna Ecclestone from Ecclestone Onboarding. Donna is the owner of Ecclestone Onboarding and Integration, a consulting firm specializing in provider onboarding and retention. With 25 years at Duke, she led recruitment and founded Duke's provider integration team, earning Joint Commission recognition in 2016. A national expert and speaker, she co-developed AAPPR's onboarding certificate program and has helped organizations build or enhance onboarding strategies. Donna is a past AAPPR board member, Education Chair, and Volunteer of the Year Award recipient. Good morning, Donna, and thank you so much for joining us today on Surviving and Thriving.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
I thought we could just start maybe the show today by talking a little bit about your personal journey. Could you share a little bit about your background and what inspired you to specialize in onboarding, particularly for physicians?
Yes. So my background is in marketing, and I think that I also have a background in customer service. I did a lot of work in recruitment at Duke and recruited the best of the best for the opportunities that existed at Duke. But why I started onboarding was that there was some problems with the disconnection after we recruited the best of the best. Then we gave them to their hiring entity, and the satisfaction and the excitement fizzled because that recruitment entity didn't have things in place to allow them to be successful. So onboarding actually starts in recruitment, and we want to make sure that that recruitment journey and transition to onboarding journey is positive for a long tenure with the organization. So I do all my onboarding because it does take a lot of effort and time. And when you, as a recruiter, you find that best candidate, you just want them to be successful. And onboarding allows that framework to be put in place for their long-term career there.
Gotcha. Yeah. So was there a moment that made you realize, was there an aha moment that made you realize onboarding needed to be more than just treated as paperwork?
Oh, yes. Lots. The one in particular that just rings all the bells is that we were struggling so hard to find a neurologist for Duke. And we found this wonderful candidate, and I was still recruiting at the time. And they called me the Friday, like 1 o'clock before they were supposed to start on Monday, and said, I don't know where I'm going on Monday. I don't know who I'm supposed to be seeing. I don't know what my first week's going to look like. And was just frustrated and thought, why did I sign an offer letter with the entity? And I said, I'm going to make some changes and I'm going to help you. And I got the neurology department, and they worked out a wonderful itinerary for her, and they did everything, welcomed her well. But that's not the start we wanted, because then they question, okay, if they're not ready, how long are they not going to be able to provide this or provide that, or shower me with tools that I need to be successful? And we had those in place, but they didn't know that because their first impression was negative. So I used that plus a lot of the other examples that I had, unfortunately, to say we need to do better. And that really kind of jolted the effort for me to make sure that I created a wonderful experience for and welcomed our providers well, and not only welcomed them well initially, but provided the support for their long-term career.
That's great. Yeah. Just because we've all been there and done that at some point where you walk into a new role or into anything new and you're lost, and that feeling of defeat right off the bat, or that feeling of you're kind of timid to ask questions. You feel like you should know what you're doing, but you really haven't, so there's a lot of emotions wrapped up there, and not a good way to start the day.
Right. But it's not only the onboarding is not only the welcome, but it's the foundation for connection. It is the trust that you're gaining from that organization, and it's the growth that you'll have. So you want to make sure that they feel like when they said yes, this is future focused, not just wait till the next opportunity comes along.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges new physicians face during onboarding, and how do you think institutions can do better?
Yeah, I do think that decision making is stressful. I do feel like when the physicians, especially trainees, start the career search, they're overwhelmed because they still have to be doing all their training, but then they have to make the decision, okay, do I want to stay here? Do I want to move? Where do I want to move? Do I want to do urban? Do I want to do rural? Do I want to do telemedicine? Do I want to be near family? And what I would suggest is making sure that they are making those decisions with their partner or their family, one, and with peers and colleagues in training as another that know them well. I also know that there are wonderful resources at PracticeLink, and there are also career coaches that are available if people want them. And then when they decide to make the list, I would write down all the things that they value on a piece of paper, because that's going to be the comparison of all the opportunities they're going to look at. What opportunity is going to meet this need, meet that need, meet this need, etc. And also, when they're calling and talking to recruiters, I would make sure that they know the difference between in-house and contingency. In-house are hired by the entity of which they serve, and contingency, they represent various opportunities. The providers do not pay a fee to the contingency. So if you are asked to pay a fee to any recruiter, that is not something you want to pursue. The contingency recruiters are paid by the entity of which they work for, the physician ultimately works for. But both can serve a need, and both can offer opportunities for the providers.
I see. And so this makes me feel good, because I do a lot of lunch and learns with residents across the country. And something I always tell them when I talk to them is it's okay to be very, very picky. You've earned that right.
Yes.
So try to meet all of your criteria, make your list, be as picky as you want to be. All the rest will still be there if you don't get your top criteria met. The rest are still going to be there, but it's okay to be picky.
Yes. Well, and I, as a recruiter, I appreciated that somebody had a list. Trainees that come in, or the residents and fellows that come in and say, I don't know what I want. How am I going to make sure that it's a match when they don't really know what they want?
Yes, exactly. So talk about strong onboarding impact with physician retention and satisfaction long-term.
Yes. So remember, as I said, onboarding starts at recruitment. So whatever entity you're working with, whether it's an in-house or a contingency recruiter, make sure that you feel comfortable with that individual. Make sure that you are not only listening to what is said, but how it is said. And then also make sure that their actions follow up with their words. Meaning, if they are saying, I will send you a video link of this, or I will get back to you on those questions, and they don't, then I would not put a lot of value in that, because that's a trust factor. And onboarding, as I said, is the welcome, but it's also the opportunity to ensure that you have what you need to go to the next step, and you have what you need to be successful long term. The other thing that I would like to make sure that people are looking at is, especially when it comes to the values, is work-life balance. There's a lot of people that say that catchphrase, but don't mean it. So show me what that means. Talk to the recruiter about that. Talk to the recruiter about retention strategies and what that means in an organization. Talk to that recruiter and ask them, what does the first week look like? What does the first month look like? What do schedules look like? It's okay to do that in your first phone interview, because sometimes the recruiter and the entity is saying, we don't need to have them call and talk to somebody else. We're going to bring them in. And if you haven't had that conversation first, there might not be an easy opportunity to have that conversation later. So get all that information up front before you decide to say yes to an interview. Because I do know that trainees have a hard time leaving their training program to go look for a job and do a job interview.
Yes, for sure. So speaking of that, so residents and fellows, they spend years in these highly structured programs. How can onboarding bridge the transition from that world into independent practice?
Yes. So onboarding is a wonderful segue to opening doors. What I would suggest is ask the recruiter that you're working with if they have an onboarding program, and what your onboarding journey at that organization looks like. So it's not, if they say, okay, you will have an orientation of this day and you'll be seeing your first cases next week, that may not be as strong as somebody say, okay, well, the first week is dedicated to training. The second week is a phased-in schedule of how you see patients. We will have one-on-one meetings with you once a week to check how you're doing, how your schedule is, etc. Month one, we will be meeting with this person or this leader, and our onboarding journey lasts a year with follow-up time to talk about new billing things or new questions or that you might have, etc. It's not just a one and done. And that's the concern that I have with some of the programs out there, that they may stop onboarding too short. They may stop it after a week. They may stop it after 60 days, after 90 days. But as a new physician, you still are learning your first year. It takes you a whole year to feel comfortable in your job. And if you're not getting input from the employer of that you're partnering with, and counseling and coaching and connection, you're still getting solicitations. You could leave. And who wants to do that after you've brought your family in here and got them established in schools?
Very true. Very true. At PracticeLink, we know the road to your first practice can be challenging. That's why we created the First Practice Fund. PracticeLink's First Practice Fund is our biannual scholarship program supporting future healthcare leaders in 6 key categories, from medical students to rural medicine providers. Applications for the next round open soon. Tell us your story and we'll help you take the next step. Visit PracticeLink.com for more information. If you could sit down with program directors across the country,
yes,
and you could talk to them What would you tell them about preparing their trainees for the onboarding process? That would be nice, right? That would be nice to be able to do that.
I've got a lot of suggestions. Let me highlight two of them. I do know that GME offices spend a lot of time working with people, new trainees coming in, do a lot of, welcomes, etc. But as the residents and trainees leave, there's not a lot of offboarding done. And so, especially with those physicians that are staying within the organization, there should be an opportunity for whether it's somebody in the onboarding program or some leadership to specifically address and welcome those that are staying to the organization well into the organization, and not just assuming that they know everything because they've been there. Benefits change, income changes, parking may change, etc. And they need to know, they've never been an attending before. They've been a trainee. What does it feel like? What support is available for them? And I don't think enough entities do that. So that is number one. And to that point, I would also have somebody who has been there, done that last year, come in and talk to them and say, this is what I experienced my first year as an attendee, going from trainee to attendee. The other thing is that I would love to see more opportunities for shadowing allowed with trainees, especially shadowing in private practices, because they're seeing a lot of the academic, obviously, but go to a private practice, go to various settings so people understand what they really like and don't like about those, so that they can make a good decision when they choose their first practice.
That's great. Great. So how early in training do you think that GME programs should introduce the concept of onboarding to residents? Is it ever too early?
It is never too early.
Uh-huh.
It's never too early. Again, you're still recruiting them even though they are a trainee. So recruitment starts onboarding. You are still guiding there and welcoming them and introducing to them and enhancing their skills. Those are things that you are continuing doing. So even though they are a trainee, they still need those skills to be the best that they can be.
Gotcha. Do you want to talk a little bit about credentialing and compliance? What's some advice to help new physicians manage that stress of credentialing and compliance?
Yes. So it is a big stress. One thing is that the terminology has changed. If you hear a lot of people talking about compliance, that's a word that is going out. The new word is clinical onboarding and safety training. Compliance sounds too restrictive and negative and just yuck, where clinical onboarding, and that sounds more progressive. Safety training sounds more progressive as well. And it's all about the patient. So what I would suggest is that let's talk about compliance training first. It should be, remember when we were talking about asking those questions in advance. So ask the recruiter, and or when you go to an interview, ask at the interview, what does their training looks like for new physicians? And also ask if there is follow-up training available for new physicians, because we don't want the fire hose of information. You're not going to digest everything if it's given to you in one big one and done. So you want to have opportunities where you feel comfortable asking additional questions, meeting with those physicians that you trained with at the orientation, connect with them again. Talk about where they're struggling together. Have somebody from the billing office come and say, these are what we're finding. This is what a suggestion, etc. Continue the learning. Going into credentialing, make sure that you know what resources are available. I know that in part of our onboarding, we had a worksheet that we gave people getting ready for credentialing, making sure that you had your medical license, your documentation, your references, everything that they needed. They knew in advance what they needed to get together, have together, and then submit for credentialing. I would, as part of your interview, whether it's with the recruiter or with the individuals, ask what their credentialing looks like. Is it portal based? Are you doing things online, or is it paper? If it's paper, they're not very proactive. They're not in touch with all of the AI and technology. If it's portal based, they are forward thinking, and that is another way to really determine what position might be best.
So how about from the recruiter side? And some of this may, we've touched on a little bit, but what does excellent onboarding look like from the recruiter side?
Excellent onboarding means that that provider has what they need to be successful from not only clinical, socially, family-centric, and also has what they need to have growth. That the onboarding is started with a very positive welcome, exciting, and that enthusiasm is with their first year with the organization plus. That they have an opportunity to get great mentorship, that they have an opportunity to have enhancements in learning, that they have the opportunity to have knowledge of other things that they can do to grow, that they have the opportunity to know that their investment in the organization matters for the future, the opportunity to know and understand how valued they are. That's good. And those people that have gone through that journey want to come back and tell other people about the journey that they had. They want to be good representatives of recruitment support. And they also want to be part of perhaps mentoring new people that are coming. I think the biggest joy for me as an onboarder are those people that called me a year, 2 years, 3 years after they started and said, Donna, I don't know where to go for this information, but I know that if I go to you, you will get me the answer and you will get back to me quickly. I may not have known the answer, but they felt comfortable knowing that I would help them. And that's passion. And that made me happy.
Mm-hmm. It makes it all worthwhile.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So how about international medical graduates? How can onboarding programs be tailored more for them?
Right. It's the cultural fit. Not only is it the clinical fit, but it's the cultural fit. Do they have the resources to feel comfortable and grow in that environment? Maybe it's mentoring with somebody from the same background. Maybe it is mentoring with somebody who same training program. Maybe, it needs to be customized. Onboarding is not, this works for everybody. Personalize the experience. And if you personalize the experience, they're going to feel valued and they're going to feel like they matter. And this is a good place for them. I do think that international graduates have a wonderful wealth of information and knowledge. And sometimes they're not able to showcase that because the community's not ready for them. It doesn't have the resources to support them. But if the community has the resources, whether it is mentoring well, connections, different societies, etc., it's going to be a win-win.
Yep.
Rural communities that have good leaders understand that value that an international provider that will bring and will support that physician to make sure they're comfortable and stay long-term. It doesn't benefit anyone to have turnover, and turnover can be reduced if people feel that what they give and what they have available to serve their patients and knowledge, the patients respect that.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Margaret Giggy. When I applied for the first Practice Fund scholarship, I never imagined how much it would impact my journey as a physician. The $2,500 award helped me focus on what truly matters, which is caring for patients and serving my community. If you're a current medical student, resident, or advanced practice provider with a passion for making a difference, this is the opportunity for you. Applications for the second round of First Practice Fund scholarships are opening soon. Visit PracticeLink.com today to learn more.
So let's talk about the future a little bit. So with telehealth, of course, telehealth is a huge thing,
Yes.
evolving credentialing requirements, workforce shortages.
Yes.
How do you see physician onboarding changing in the next 5 to 10 years? And AI. AI is a huge factor as well.
When you talk about telehealth, there are a lot of companies now that do telehealth. One of the things that I would suggest is to make sure that if you are examining a facility that is just telemedicine focused, that you look into the laws regarding licensing, because there are some ways to be able to get multiple licensing in various states. If you are doing telehealth, you do have to have a position in a state that you do at least 25% of your business in, and then you can get those other licenses. But it is much easier now. The other thing with license is the compact in licensing. So review that, talk to Chat GPT, whatever, do a little research before you go into those different practices. But I do think that telehealth and various positions, even academic or private practices, getting into telehealth and doing video visits, making sure technology is up to par because you don't want dial-up service.
Yeah.
Making sure that they're on the front end of that, making sure that you know what the future is going to be with that organization that's pursuing telehealth. Are they doing that for patient convenience? Are they doing that as, just to try it out? Are they doing that as a growth strategy to reach more providers? What support is available after the telehealth visit? I think that is very important too, and a good question to ask. What opportunities exist for concerns with people to have a different language? Is there availability to have an interpreter come as part of that as well? Because you're going to have that. That exists now. But those are some of the things that I would think about as soon as you mentioned telehealth.
Yeah, and I didn't even bring up locums.
Yes.
That's another, growing thing every day. It's growing more and more.
Yeah. And again, I think it goes back to, it's hard to make the decision on what you want to do with the rest of your life after you've spent all these years training. But make the list and invest the time. And when you do that, you will be successful long-term.
So if you had the power to redesign the onboarding process nationwide, what would be the first thing you would fix?
Well, I would make sure that everybody has an onboarding program that's at least a year. I would make sure that there is a continual stream of information that's provided for that new provider. I would make sure that those providers that start with that recruiter and that wonderful experience has a great knowledge of what they're getting into if they go with this opportunity. So it's not like, well, nobody ever told me about that. Nobody ever mentioned this. That details are clear as far as compensation, as far as growth strategies, as far as clinic volume, as far as various locations where you're going to practice. I hate that contract says, and other locations as decided. Well, it's usually not the provider that has investment in that decision. It's the entity, and it might be 3 hours away. So make sure that you are invested in that. I would also make sure that the connections are strong, that people feel like they have a positive relationship with the person who is onboarding, that you feel their heart. That's how I practice. I think that's how a lot of onboarders practice. I also feel that you want to make sure that the program is focused on the individual needs of that provider and that is addressed, that there is also a wonderful support system for that provider, and that that family feels comfortable long term, and connections are made. I love, as a consultant, I get to hear and see what other entities are doing. I love the entities that invest in scheduling activities for families and providers every month, whether it's a picnic or, a get together or event or going bowling. It doesn't matter, but that human connection is so important, especially the face to face, and making sure that you feel connected to the leaders. I want to see onboarding programs where the leaders are present and they are at that welcome orientation. I want to see that to be something that is not done video. I want it person to person. And yes, that might cost money because you may have to bring people in, but you know what? They're going to value that organization for them being there in person and seeing these people.
Yes. So one of the hospitals I used to work at, they had such a great system in place. So what they did was their third and fourth year medical students rotating through the hospital. They watched them very closely through their third year rotations. And fourth year, they would have journal club at local physicians' homes, invite them to their homes. They would take them out to events, really get them incorporated into the community. But they would also offer to sign contracts in fourth year, which is a rare thing, but it was a great system and it worked so well. So they would pay a stipend while they were away in residency, and then they came back. And I'm still in touch with so many physicians, young physicians who stayed. They stayed because in fourth year, they were at a physician's home, or they were at a local event, or they were having a dinner with local physicians, and really got integrated into the community very quickly at a great place in their life where they really needed the mentorship, the guidance, So it worked well. And I know everybody can't do that, and that model doesn't work for everybody, but it really was nice to watch.
Right. Well, and I remember in recruitment, especially in the communities where it's a little bit more rural, where the physicians would have the recruitee who is interviewing come to their home for a meal versus going to a restaurant. That really was special.
It makes such a huge difference.
The conversation was more intimate than when you're in a restaurant and the noise and, all that distraction. I agree totally. And it's those opportunities, the trainees want work-life balance. It's not just, a paycheck anymore. It's a lifestyle. Yes, they want to practice medicine or they wouldn't be a doctor, but they also want time for their family. And they also want to be able to feel like what they do matter. And they also want to be able to have the best things available for their patients. So it's a balance. And work-life balance, but it's those entities that can provide that and strive for making sure that they're always doing better for their organization and moving ahead with whether it's AI, it's, this program, that program, et cetera. They're the ones that the physicians are going to stay and be successful.
Yes. And feedback I get from a lot of residents now, work-life balance is top of the list for them. Not that it hasn't always been, but, generations, we've said work-life balance, but have we really actually, created that for ourselves or not? But with newer generations, it's definitely, it's going to be implemented. It's not just something you say, it's something you live by.
according to some recent studies, it was higher in ranking than pay. Work-life balance is what they're looking for. And lifestyle. They want to meet the needs of their family. They want to feel valued. I mean, who doesn't? Whoever I work with, I want them to feel like they matter, feel like they made the right decision, that they feel this is where they can grow. This is where their family can feel safe. This is where people care about them because they're going to care about the people that are in the community. It's wonderful.
It's so nice. So if you could give advice to residents about surviving and thriving through onboarding, what would it be?
Make your list. Make your list. Talk to different people in different environments. Hey, what do you like most about private practice? What do you like most about being a hospitalist? What do you like most about being in urgent care? What do you like most about being in locums? Get some feedback from people, because the people that you're talking to will give you some opinion on what's going to be best avenue for you. Know that the in-house recruiters, the ones that work for the entities of which you train typically, or that are looking for physicians for their certain hospital, have connections. So maybe you realize that you don't necessarily want Pennsylvania where you trained. You would like opportunity in North Carolina or Florida. They have a directory of all the in-house recruiters in those areas, and they can give you a name to talk to, find out about opportunities. Look at PracticeLink. Look at all the different opportunities that exist there. Make sure that you are looking at words particular, because words matter. Are you seeing work-life balance? Are you seeing things like flexibility? Are you seeing things like we're focusing on the future? And, how are the words fitting what you want? It's not just money. It's the other things. And for those jobs that say money, it may not be a long-term effect. They may say, we'll guarantee you $500,000 for your first year, but after that, you're on your own. It might be kind of like, we're going to get you with this money, but the long-term success of that is going to be up to you. And if it takes you a year to feel comfortable in a job, you may not have the resources available to have that same income year two. So think about that. There are pros and cons about employment as well. How flexible do you want to be as far as autonomy? In a hospital environment, you might be more tied to their rules, regulations. Than in private practice, you might have a little bit more room to be able to make some decisions. What do you want? When you make that call to that recruiter, think about how you felt after the call, not necessarily the information that was shared, because that's question two, but how did you feel? Did you feel valued? Did you feel comfortable? Did you feel energized? Did you feel like this is something that you want to pursue? Or was it blasé? Was it like, maybe? Well, if it was a maybe, don't waste your time. Go to a yes. I always love the comment, when you onboard, it is your every day, but it's the residents and the fellows and the trainees' first day. So you want to be positive energy, excited, and continue that. If they're getting I got another one, this is not what you want to have for your career. They're not going to be there for you, and you are too valuable to be in an organization that doesn't value you.
Yes, so true. Yep. What's one thing you wish every new physician knew before starting their first job?
That it's okay to ask questions, that it's important. That's one thing. I'm going to add a couple. It's okay to ask questions. No questions is a dumb question. It's dumb not to ask questions.
Sure.
Okay. I always thought it was funny when people were interviewing and the interviewer said, do you have any questions? And the trainee resident said, nope, don't have any questions. Have questions. 2, it's okay to have, some concern, meaning, I don't know about this. Can you explain this for me? I don't know about this. Can I have some more resources? Those are kind of questions, but it's okay to ask. The more you ask and the more you gain information and do research, the better you'll feel presently and future. And do research. That's the other thing. I do think that it's hard to look for a job because you feel like, oh my gosh, I have to find something and get started early. I have to find something. Everything's riding on this. Not everything's riding on that. Give yourself some grace. People do make mistakes. Hopefully, the decision you make is going to be permanent, but it's okay to change. The highest turnover for most positions is the first 1 to 3 years. As a recruiter, I don't want that. And as an onboarder, I'm going to do everything I can not to have that happen. But sometimes it does, and that's okay. And know that one of the things that make onboarding easier is knowing what to expect. So what I would suggest is when you say yes, ask, what do I need to do to make this onboarding easier for me? What are some deadlines that I need to do? Even before you say yes, if it's a state that you're interested in, like I'm definitely going to be in this state, get your medical license. Save your receipts because perhaps you may be able to be reimbursed. Some may, some may not. But go ahead and get your license. Do whatever you can in advance. Don't wait to the last minute. And don't pursue FCVS unless you need it. Some states you don't need it. If you're just going to practice in a certain state, don't spend that money to get the FCVS because some states say, we're not going to use it. Some states are going to require primary source verification and they don't accept FCVS. So do your research.
Great advice. Great advice. I think we could talk all day, Donna. So as we wrap up, anything that you would like to share with the listeners out there? So a lot of GME listeners, a lot of pre-med, a lot of medical students, a lot of residence fellows, anything else that you would want to share with them before we wrap up?
So thanks for having me, for one thing. I would share with the residents and the trainees, use your resources, PracticeLink, your internal recruiters, career coaches. There's a lot of former in-house recruiters that are turned into career coaches, and they're phenomenal and can help you with questions to ask in an interviews. Fact is, I did an article for PracticeLink about what questions to ask in an interview. So look that up as well, plug. That's okay. Make sure that you talk to a lot of people and network, and try not to stress. I know that's easy for me to say and sometimes hard to do, but with preparation and by hearing the words that people are using and seeing the actions that are behind the words, you're going to make a good choice. And I'm available if people want to just reach out at my website, a phone call, whatever.
That's so great. Well, on behalf of myself and PracticeLink, we would like to thank you, Donna, for being a guest on our podcast. For our listeners, please feel free to reach out with any questions or feedback about anything we covered today by emailing me. If you wish to receive more information about PracticeLink, please visit our website, www.practicelink.com. You can also contact Donna at ecclestoneonboarding@gmail.com or visit ecclestoneonboarding.com. And we thank you for listening. Donna, thanks again.
You're welcome. My pleasure.